Golden State, Houston Rockets. Let's talk about what happened last night. Let's talk about why the series is likely over. Let's talk about all of those things and get that done really quickly as possible, because I think that today there is not going to be a whole lot to yap about. I think this is the end of the Golden State Warriors as we know them. I think that Steph will have to be moved. I thought that he was going to have to be moved last season. Now, do I think he'll actually be traded somewhere? Probably not. But do I think Steph will grow frustrated and voice his concerns to the management staff, and they might be forced to do something drastic? Yeah, I think so. As far as what they can do and what I think they could do to prolong Steph's time period in this Golden State era, if they would like to do this, I think it's a crazy thing they could try, but they certainly could do it. The only thing that I could think of currently on the top of my head that would keep Steph here if they lose Game 7, which I think they're likely going to lose, choking a 3-1 lead would also be very embarrassing, considering that Steph played also very well in all of these games except let's see, that was Game 6 last night. Game 5, except Game 5. 5 was terrible, I'm not gonna lie. I think they might have to I think we can finally see that Giannis trade. That would be nice. But that's wishful thinking. Let me talk about what's actually going on in the series right now. So why do I think the series is over as we know it? And why do I think the Golden State Warriors are going to have to make a massive change, despite the fact that they just got a Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline, and despite the fact that they just gave him an extension that's worth $60 million a season, and they have to jump his salary somewhere else? Why do I think that? Well, if you don't know, Draymond is sequentially a negative asset at this point, in my opinion. His offensive limitations is a non-shooter, and we always knew this was going to happen. This was going to happen. His inability as a finisher, it's all catching up with him, and it's over. It's really over. His defensive prowess is not what it used to be. He's obviously it's not what it used to be. Duh. But like it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't know if Draymond Green is a positive on the basketball court anymore. I think he would be positive in a coaching staff maybe, but as a basketball player, I don't know. For a couple of years, I thought the Warriors should have moved on from Draymond Green and Steph Curry. Clay, they finally moved on. They moved on from this year actually, and I think that was a good sign. But they need to stop holding on to this core that won them a championship in 2015, that won them a championship in 2017, that won them a championship in 2018, that won them a championship in 2022. It's not those years anymore. It's not like that anymore. The NBA's landscape is worse and more hostile to them than it's ever been. So first of all, we might as well just congratulate Houston right now, because unless Houston, honestly, I feel like it would be more of a choke job on Houston's part to not win this Game 7 at home, because they not only have all the momentum in the series, not only did Golden State lose their Game 6 where they needed to close it out, in my opinion. I think they haven't figured out this point. Dude, the Warriors resulted last night into hacking Steven Adams. They resorted to treating Steven Adams like he was fucking Shaq, dog. Unfortunately for them, the math worked out to be this. If he's shooting 50% from the free throw line, that is equivalent to him shooting... Hold on, let me do the math real quick. I think that's the equivalent of him like making half of his 2-pointers. Which I know that sounds stupid, but that's how that math works out, I think. Because making half of your 2-pointers would generate 1 point per shot, 1 point per possession, and Adams was doing that last night. It's not a good strategy. The math just does not work out. Especially because they were getting out offensive rebounding while they were hacking him. So even when he did miss the second free throw, which kept the ball in play, they couldn't secure the rebound, which led to the Houston getting more opportunities. Houston out-rebounded the fuck out of this team. They outplayed them on defense. And honestly, Steph's offensive help in Jimmy Butler, who played great, not going to lie, is not enough. And the way this team is set up, they just don't have enough. And unless Steph is going to take a pay cut, which he probably shouldn't do at this point in time in his career, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be taking a pay cut. He's already taken multiple pay cuts for this team in the organization. But if he wants more help, he's going to have to take a pay cut. So I don't know how that's going to happen. As far as Houston, Sengun, even despite not playing as well as I thought he should, right? still, they found a way to win. Jalen Green was not as great as he could have been last night. They found a way to win. And this game was very close all the way up until the fourth quarter, where the Rockets just exploded and the Golden State Warriors, quite frankly, looked tired. I know Steph is tired. Steph still has some of the highest mileage of any player, just period. They need to really prolong Steph's career at this point in time. You need a point guard, or not a point guard, another ball handler. It's time for Steph to transition into being like an off-ball shooter. At times, at least, I think he can do that. Everybody knows Steph is a good catch-and-shoot player. But to prolong his career at this point, he can't be the number one option on a championship-winning team, which means, sadly, in my opinion, that means he's no longer a superstar. It's the same thing I think about LeBron. It's over. It's with these guys being superstars. The reign of being superstars is over. Kevin Durant's reign of being a superstar is over. Not that I think his reign of being a superstar ended this year. Let's not kid ourselves. It ended the second he left Golden State. And to be honest, my definition of a superstar is the number one guy on a championship team, and I don't know if KD was ever that guy there. So that's a topic for a different video if I ever feel like making one of those. If anyone ever feels like hearing what I think about superstars and who have been like the superstars over the past decade or so. But yeah, that's not as important as what I'm talking about right now. So forgive me. But yeah, Houston has all momentum going into a potential Game 7. I said potential, a Game 7. And speaking of Game 7s, there's going to be one on tonight. Clippers versus Nuggets. That's going to come on at 7:30, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it's 8, not really sure. I'm pretty sure it's 7:30, but I'm going to go double check it right now. Pretty sure. I'm not sick, by the way. It's just stuffy. Not that anyone's wondering about that, but yeah. Pretty sure. Let's see, what does the schedule say? Yeah, 7:30. And we'll look at the box score really quickly. By the way, that was a hard game to watch on a Friday night, I'm not gonna lie. The fourth quarter really killed all joy and momentum from that game. I'm not gonna lie. I needed Golden State to win this game, not just because of my predictions, but like seriously, just because like this was a must-win game for Golden State, and that's crazy because Houston was the team that was facing elimination. They might choke another 3-1 lead. This might be Steph's worst 3-1 lead choke, because in the finals, honestly, you can say it wasn't his fault. There's a very good argument that Game 5, had they won Game 5, well, I mean, this wouldn't even be happening right now. But yes, them getting blown out in Game 5 is insane, to be quite honest. Let's talk about this. Amen Thompson had another game where he was on Steph's ass the entire way through, just completely bumping and riding, and just making him as uncomfortable as possible and forcing him to take even more mileage on his body than he should. Steven Adams, I've said this a lot. They resulted to hacking him. He shot 100% from the field last night. And from the free throw line, 9 of 16. That's better than 50%. So if they were banking on the math of him only making around half of them, that's similar to around half, but they needed him to make less than half, and they needed to get the offensive rebounds after that. Sengun, despite not being the world's greatest shooters last night, because the shots were coming and they were tough, the rebounding was there. If Golden State's not going to get shooting out of Gary Payton Jr., he's almost unplayable next to Draymond, and Draymond is a core asset to this team. They need him on the floor a lot. So Gary Payton Jr. just becomes redundant if he's not hitting his threes or playing the world's greatest defense and generating turnovers all the time, which didn't happen. Despite the fact that Jalen Green only had 12 points, they found another way to win. And Jalen Green also had some very good signs last night, in my opinion. That block was very crucial to me. He did not have any steals, but he was actually making defensive plays that makes it where so you can play him even if he's not having the world's greatest offensive right now. Fred VanVleet, though. I don't know what you did to this man, Steph, but he has your number. Every time you see this man in the playoffs, he wants you, dude. He wants to beat you. I don't know what you did, man. He might be the real Steph killer. LeBron, lost to him 2 times. Flatbrand beat undefeated against Stephen Curry in the playoffs. Let's talk about that. Push that narrative. By the way, no. But if we're just gonna talk about what he did last night, 29%. Sorry about that. 29 points. 67% from 3. He shot 6 of 9, 7 of 13 from the field. So that means all but one of the shots that he made last night were threes. So that true shooting percentage is probably through the fucking roof. His assists were good. His turnovers were not that bad. 8 assists, 8 rebounds. Defensive rebounds too. So these keep you from being on the glass. And these are not kick out rebounds. These are not rebounds where it's tipped out and he eventually secures the ball. Like, this is, I don't know what to tell you. Jabari Smith last night was shooting and making some very important threes. Even questionable ones where I'm like, I don't know if I want him to shoot that. Tari Eason was doing similar things to Jabari. They have about the exact same stats, to be quite honest. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This is not going to work. And you know the worst part about this? Even if they made it through Houston last night, even if they made it through Houston, they closed out that series, they'd have to do it again against, against Minnesota. And unlike Los Angeles, where I think the timeline favors them a lot better, because, like, hey, look, you lost to the Timberwolves. Congratulations, that sucks. That might be LeBron's last time. It might be LeBron's last year. I don't think it's his last actual year. LeBron is going to get a farewell tour. He's LeBron James. You don't think his ego is going to, like, make him want a farewell tour? Let's be honest. He's going to get a farewell tour. He's going to announce when he's retiring before the year even starts. That's just who he is. Let's be honest. Right? But second, more importantly, the Lakers, there's stuff that they can do to improve, and they still have a Luka Doncic, a young superstar on the roster. The Warriors don't have that. They don't have a reboot for the timeline. They've doubled down on this era that is probably closing very soon. And really, if you look at their pick situation, I'm not really sure what they have right now. Let me actually check, because I think they're, like, really screwed asset-wise, and they just gave Jimmy Butler a huge contract where he's making $60 million a season, and I was saying, who would be desperate enough to pay him that much money? And Golden State they fit the bill. And I'm not going to give Pat Riley praise for offloading Jimmy Butler. I think what he did was kind of slimy, but you got to think about it for a second. Who wants to be paying Jimmy Butler $60 million a season? Who's going to be able to get out of that deal? No one. So let's see. Let's check it. Golden State Warriors picks. That reminds me, while I'm looking this up, if Golden State ever falls off in the Bay Area, they do have a WNBA team now that you should celebrate, and you should be very happy and proud to see. I don't know if if I ever get an audience, I don't know if they'll care about it. But if I get enough, like, stuff, I will talk about the WNBA. Heck, I might start talking about the WNBA just because this channel is not going anywhere. Who knows? So Warriors picks. Draft picks. I think they got a new team called the Valkyrie. Let's see. These are just telling me the picks that they in their history. I want to know who owns their picks. Let's see their pick situation. By the way, this is a team that hasn't drafted well outside of a Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and the person who drafted them is no longer on this team's GM staff, so I'm not really sure what to tell motherfuckers about that. Let's see. Man, it is so annoying. I'm gonna pause the video and I'll come back once I figure out what their pick situation actually looking like, but hold on. Alright, so I've got our website pulled up so I can find this. They do not own their 2025 pick. That's the second rounder. Evidently they don't own their first round here either. Not really sure where it went. Actually, the 2025 pick that they have is Miami's, and it has no protections on it, but it's a second round pick, so it's not as valuable. Their 2026 pick they own 7, 28, 29, 30. So unless they're willing to really double down on this era really, really hardly to get another ball handler, or at least someone just to take the pressure off of Steph. They're kind of cooked. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. So let's see their outgoing picks. All of their picks this year have been their first round pick was sent out to Miami. Obviously, we know that. Their second round picks have been sent to Memphis via the Detroit swap with Golden State for Washington via Brooklyn. I don't know even. That's a mess. Whatever. They don't have any second round picks in 2026. To Charlotte or Phoenix. Any of those. Philly or Washington 2027. Philly in 2028. Brooklyn in 2029. Washington gets their first round pick in 2030. That's not really as relevant. And their second round picks will go to is a pick swap between Minnesota and Detroit. Minnesota will receive the more favorable of the second round picks. Golden State's second round pick in Detroit will be the less favorable of the two. Yeah, so yeah, their draft situation isn't as bad as I thought it was, but yeah, that's something to worry about in the future. As far as Houston's future is bright. Houston's actually, let me see with Houston. I know Houston has a lot of Phoenix's picks. So if Devin Booker ever becomes available, who could be a very, 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 very helpful player on this team, and I think they have the contracts to make it work out, that could be great for them. So there's a clear window for improvement if these guys lose in the playoffs. So, by the way, since I think that Houston is going to win in the inevitable Game 7, that'll happen Sunday. It should happen. Yep, Sunday. I think that Houston does not stand a chance in hell against a Minnesota team. I feel like Minnesota is just like this exact same version of this team, except they're more experienced and they have more offense. So, yeah, especially because Sengun's matchup is going to be Rudy Gobert, and I don't know if you know this, but where Sengun likes to play the most is actually where Rudy Gobert is the most effective. So, yeah, it's not going to be pretty. So look forward to that. And if Jalen Green is still Jalen Green, so yeah, anyway, if literally just go down the rosters and compare the players, Fred VanVleet is better than Mike Conley, obviously, but like, who cares? That's a whatever matchup for Mike Conley, whatever, dude. I mean, obviously Fred VanVleet was going to torch him. That's what's going to happen regardless. Jaden McDaniels will be probably the primary defender that they throw on him because he's like the most offensive. He's the player that has the most offensive burden on this team. So yeah, it'll be I think that'll be an interesting series. I don't know how many games it'll go. Probably like 6. Either way, Minnesota can win 6. I mean 4-2 versus them, or Houston could go 4-2. Either way, there's a very open spot for whoever comes in second place to OKC this year in the West. So there's that. That's fun. As far as who I think is going to win today's game, let's see. Game 7 is in Denver. It really depends on whichever team shoots better from 3. I'm going to be completely honest. That is almost it. That is almost the entire deciding factor because I feel like they have good enough matchups for each other. Michael Porter Jr. is obviously hurt, and I think he would be a very pivotal piece in the series. He's not going to be able to play healthily, so there's that. And if we're talking about just straight talent, if we're talking about upward talent, I mean, hey, I think the Clippers have that department because it's just Jokic. Like, really, if we're thinking about it. Harden has had a great season, and I think Harden will outplay Murray. As far as Aaron Gordon, I mean, dude, Aaron Gordon, Norman Powell, I'd probably take Aaron Gordon to have a better game than them. So it's really just going to come down to that Zubac matchup. How many points is Zubac going to get in Game 7 is what you should be worried about if you're a Clippers fan. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on everything that's happened yesterday. That's my thoughts on what I think will happen today. Stay tuned and stay with me for whatever happens. Because regardless of whatever happens, I'm still going to be covering it. That being said, if you like this video, like the video. If you didn't like the video, don't dislike the video. Tell me why you didn't like it in the comment section. And as far as subscribing, please do it.